Tonight on the County Line, it's a rematch from 2 years ago. Hear why candidates for the U.S. House want the job.
And get your latest Greyhound updates from Titantown Sports.
Plus, learn about the history of one local business. We're live.
We're local.
The County Line starts now.
Good evening, and thanks for joining us tonight on the County Line. I'm Scott Lawrence.
And I'm Alex Hines. Both Lawrence and Mercer counties report record numbers of registered voters this year. Democrats now outnumber Republicans in both counties by nearly 18,000 people.
Voters have from 7 in the morning to 8 in the evening on November 4th to cast their ballots. Those who can't get to their polling place that day can request an absentee ballot up until October 28th.
Earlier this week, the Republican National Committee announced it would be giving Sarah Palin $150,000 to spend on her campaign wardrobe. But have you decided what you'll be wearing to the polls on November 4th? Lawrence County Director of Elections Marlene Gabriel told us about some restrictions on what you'll be allowed to wear when you go to vote.
T-shirts, buttons, hats, anything like that's like campaign material, influencing the candidate, and just any kind of campaign material that's not allowed in a polling place.
Okay. If you have more questions about what's acceptable at the polls, you can get more information at the Lawrence County Elections Office. As to the upcoming election, Gabriel believes the elections will run smoothly and hopes that everyone wins by a landslide.
It's a rematch 2 years in the making. Congresswoman Melissa Hart was ousted from her congressional seat after 6 years by newcomer Jason Altmire. The County Line's Amanda Conway tells us why the candidates think they should be in office representing Lawrence County.
Melissa Hart versus Jason Altmire. It sounds familiar, doesn't it? In 2006, Altmire defeated Hart, who served in office for 3 terms. Both Altmire and Hart recently made stops in New Wilmington. They fielded questions from residents about why they should be elected. Altmire says that he's made positive changes for the people of the 4th District.
I think that I do have a good record to run on. I've had 24 bills or amendments that I sponsored that have passed the House. 16 became law. I think that's a pretty good record of achievement. I brought $80 million of federal funding back to Western Pennsylvania.
Hart has spent the past 2 years back at her law firm. She feels her time away from Washington has prepared her to return and make reforms in Congress.
I've learned a lot more than certainly a congressman is going to know about how things actually operate in the real world again. And now I used to practice law. Before I went to Congress, while I was a state senator, I was practicing law. So the private sector is what's important. These are the people that any congressman represents. I would be re-energized to go back there and work to clear out people, to stand up and take a stand against people who are abusing the public trust, because otherwise people will never have any respect for the Congress.
Altmire continues to outspend Hart in negative TV ads. Now Hart is responding, running attack ads of her own. The voters decide November 4th. Reporting for the County Line, I'm Amanda Conway.
If you're interested in hearing what local candidates have to say, the League of Women Voters will hold its annual candidate forum next Wednesday, October 30th. Candidates include Jason Altmire and Melissa Hart, or including them, will answer audience questions about their political stances. The event will be broadcast live from Newcastle on the Westminster Cable Network.
Westminster College will inaugurate its 14th president on Saturday, officially recognizing Dr. Richard Dorman as the campus's new leader. Ceremonies will be held in Orr Auditorium, where the campus community and Board of Trustees will come together to install Dorman. The ceremonies start at 10 o'clock.
Next on the County Line, Nikki Pizar brings you more about the history of Lawrence County.
And get the results of Titan football's homecoming matchup.
Plus, hear from the owner of one local business about its long history.
Stay tuned, more County Line is on the way.
I am an American.
I am an American.
I am an American.
I am an American.
I
I
I am
am American.
American.
I am an American.
I am American.
I am an American.
I'm an American.
I'm an American.
I am American.
I am an American.
I'm an American.
I am an American.
I am an American. Come on! This way!
Who is that guy?
I don't know! Hurry up! It's right behind us!
I know!
Come on, get up!
407 years ago.
Think history is a little scary? Then log on to loc.gov and see how much fun it can be. The Library of Congress at loc.gov.
Time is running out for New Wilmington children to get their costume ready for trick-or-treating this Halloween. The Borough of New Wilmington has set its trick-or-treat date for October 30th this year. Children will have from 5:30 to 7:30 to haunt the borough and collect their stash of candy.
The borough's Halloween parade will take place again this year. The parade will be held on Saturday, October 25th, as it celebrates its 60th anniversary. In addition to the parade, games and other activities will be set up in the parking lot of the Jameson Health Place. The parade rolls out at 5:30 Saturday evening.
The season has changed, and with the falling leaves and colder weather come some fun things to do around the area. The County Line's Jeremiah Patterson takes a look at some of these activities.
Fall is coming, and that means changes in color and activities throughout Lawrence and Mercer counties. In Volant, the shops are decorated for the coming season, pumpkins for sale and mums too. But on this morning, before the shoppers arrive, the fishermen are getting a jump start. Don Fox says he's enjoying a day off from work.
Well, I'm get a little bit of R&R. It's rest and relaxation this morning. I work in retail, so any chance I can get out away from the public, I get out here to Volant and do a little bit of fishing.
Fox says the coming months should bring better fishing, and he's ready.
The fall's always, I'm ready for the change of the season, plus I'm can't wait for the weather to get a little bit colder. The fishing gets a little better than right now.
Meanwhile, I travel through some country roads heading north. The trees are beginning to change colors and the roads become sprinkled with leaves. At Buell Park in Sharon, residents are still enjoying the relatively warm weather. Walking and jogging are popular, and fishing here too. But tennis? Sherman Jubileer, Betty Clark, and Bill Ritt say they frequent the courts, and for a while.
We play tennis till the snow flies, but other than that, it's just walking and riding bikes and, yeah.
Joggers.
Joggers, yeah. And a lot of the kids come up here and have their track meets.
Clark says she enjoys the changes of the seasons.
Yeah, I like the change of season. You know, not real crazy about the snow and the ice, but yeah, I like it cooler because it's beautiful, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you dress for it, I like all seasons.
And while all the seasons can be nice, fall is on its way. And in Lawrence and Mercer counties, it's especially enjoyable.
When looking for local produce and goods, area residents turn to New Wilmington's Apple Castle. Owner Lyle Johnson explains just how the Apple Castle got its start.
It's a family business, the Apple Castle. My dad started the original Apple Castle sales room in 1950. And then we built the sales room we're in now after I came back to the business in 1982. Now the farm has actually been in my family since 1861. I'm the fifth generation on the farm here. So we went retail, like I said, in 1950, and we've just developed it and worked on that.
Coming up on the County Line, keep on top of your Titan football action with Titantown Sports.
And Christina Rosetto sits down with the new president of Westminster College.
More County Line is on the way.
Come on! This way!
Who is that guy?
I don't know! Hurry up! It's right behind us!
I know!
Come on, get up!
407 years ago.
Think history is a little scary? Then log on to loc.gov and see how much fun it can be. The Library of Congress at loc.gov.
Recycling grocery bags is catching on.
Here's my favorite.
Let's reduce packaging by getting one big bottle, and it's recyclable.
Ooh, this box is heavy.
Oh, we'll get this small container of concentrate instead. It's recyclable, too.
Now that's smart shopping. Less packaging and more recyclables.
All we're asking is for you to recycle. Hey, baby, reduce and reuse.
Has your child overdrawn their account more than once? Does their credit card spending seem to be out of control? They may be ruining their credit and their future. If you know someone that needs to learn how to budget their expenses before they get out into the real world, come to the Consumer Credit Counseling Service. They're a nonprofit organization that offers free sessions to learn how to budget effectively and help you get out of debt. Consumer Credit Counseling Service, offering financial help in any crisis.
As we mentioned earlier in the show, Westminster will inaugurate its 14th president on Saturday.
That's right, and this week, the County Line's Christina Rossetto had a chance to sit down with Dr. Richard Dorman and find out a little more about his plans for the college.
Good evening. Welcome to this week's edition of County Close-Up. I'm honored to be here with Westminster's 14th president, Dr. Richard Dorman. Dr. Dorman, thank you for taking time out of your schedule to be here.
My pleasure.
Dr. Dorman most recently was Vice President of Institutional Advancement at Otterbein College and also served previously at the University of Louisville from 1990 to 1994 and was also an executive with the Penn State Alumni Association. So, Dr. Dorman, you've been here since July, coming from Otterbein. How have you been welcomed since you first stepped foot on this campus?
Well, everybody's been fantastic. It's been a great welcoming experience, and we're delighted to be back in Pennsylvania.
Otterbein is also a small school, 3,100 students approximately there versus the 1,600 to 1,700 here at Westminster. How does it compare or contrast to Westminster?
Well, Otterbein was located in a suburban metropolitan area, so it was a bigger institution. It also had a lot more of its students coming from the general metropolitan area than, say, Westminster has. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the big differences.
You said that they're coming from a different area. Do you see any striking differences between Westminster and between Otterbein in terms of geographically, with Otterbein being in a more suburban area and Westminster being in a more rural area, or do you see a lot of similarities coming from there?
Well, programmatically, there's some differences. I think Westminster embraces the liberal arts more so than Otterbein College did, which was more of a pre-professional institution. Otterbein had a nursing program, for instance. It had a very active equine science program, a large business program. Also, it had 3 master's programs in nursing, an MBA, and also a master's of education. So it was, in some ways, a very different institution.
There's a much larger freshman class here at Westminster, 450 to
Right.
460. It's a big change for all the upperclassmen here, for the faculty, the staff, administration. There's been improvements made to the dorms and other facilities. We're getting more and better high rankings and marks from U.S. News and World Report. What are you most impressed with this campus, with all of that factoring into the whole thing?
Well, the campus has grown tremendously under Tom Williamson's leadership in the past, and Oscar Remick before him. But the thing that I continue to be most impressed with, I think, is the people. This is what makes Westminster what it is. It's the people. They are very focused on making sure that the students get an excellent collegiate education, and that's really what I'm most impressed with.
With the large freshman class and with the growth here at Westminster that people really did say that this college needed, President Williams Williamson's mantra was get better, not bigger. As the enrollment increases at Westminster, how do you feel personal attention and the small school atmosphere that you, I'm sure, had at Otterbein and that you'll receive here, how do you think that should be maintained?
Well, Westminster will always be a small school. The question is how small is small. And we're going to be looking at that as we move into this coming year, as we look at planning for the next 10 years through a strategic planning process that we're going to be doing. And that will answer that question.
Both schools, Otterbein and Westminster, are definitely committed to excellence. Like you said, Otterbein is a professional school, Westminster committed to the liberal arts. Lots of rankings from U.S. News, like I said before. To what do you attribute those distinctions for each school, respectively?
Well, I think it's the nature of the educational experience that the students at Westminster get. Because the faculty are so focused on making sure that there are good, successful outcomes of the students, we provide them an outstanding education and get them out in 4 years. And I think we've distinguished ourselves in that regard.
Every school needs room for improvement. There's always room for it. Where do you think Westminster needs the most improvements?
Well, we have to continue to look at our infrastructure. A lot of good things were done in the past 10 years in building on infrastructure, but we still have some things to do. We need to improve our endowment too. It's still relatively small given where it needs to be in order to help the institution, so we'll be working hard on that as well.
And finally, the last question, the big question, why Westminster? What drew you to this place?
Well, I've known about Westminster for many years. When I was doing my doctoral work at Penn State, I shared an office with a graduate of Westminster who used to talk a lot about the institution, and I got to know the institution through him. And when the position opened up, I had been nominated by a president in Philadelphia, and I knew Gloria Sahigas, who's the vice president for institutional advancement here. I'd known her for 11 years and called her up and said, you know, would this be something I should pursue? And she thought it would be a good fit for me, and I'm glad the board felt that way.
Well, Dr. Dorman, we're unfortunately out of time. Thank you so much for taking time out. Again, more County Line coming up next.
There's a better way to have fun with history.
It's okay, Amelia.
Visit americaslibrary.gov. Log on, play around, learn something.
On 3. 1.
Hey, mister, studied algebra in school and got a better job than I could. You take the last couple.
Oh, no, mister. Stuck in an entry-level job because you only learned basic math. I don't have a boss riding my butt like you do, so you take it so you can get back to your desk.
You know, I probably should, but maybe Miss AP Calculus with the $200 haircut in the big office upstairs would like a cup.
Oh, no, mister. What was your name again? Never mind, it doesn't matter. I'm too busy doing important things to care. I just came down for some sweet and start.
You know, if my limited math abilities weren't keeping me from getting a better job, I'd quit this afternoon.
I don't blame you. But thank goodness you're stuck here because we really need someone to make the coffee.
Good evening, sports fans. I'm Melissa Maines, and welcome to this week's edition of Titantown Sports. Today was a big day for basketball teams in the President's Athletic Conference as head coaches of both men's and women's teams, sports information directors, and members of the media were present at the conference media day. The conference was held at the Western Pennsylvania Sports Museum in Pittsburgh, where all attendees ate a light lunch, then attended a press conference where all coaches of both men's and women's teams talked about their upcoming season, and then coaches and players were available for interviews. According to the preseason poll released at the PAC Basketball Media Day, the Westminster men's basketball team came in 6th, right behind Teal, and our Lady Titans came in 4th, right in front of Chatham. Washington and Jefferson were chosen to lead the pack for the men's team, and Thomas More to lead the women's.
What are your expectations for the upcoming season?
Well, I'm not real sure yet. Unfortunately, a lot of our successes or failures are going to rely on kids returning from injury and freshmen. So if our freshmen come along and the kids coming back from injury are okay, I think we're going to have a nice season. But that's that's obviously a huge question mark.
I think our expectations this year is to be competitive every game and to get better throughout the season. Having a young team, it'll be hard to, the important thing is going to be consistent with our efforts and just getting better every week.
Now on to some other Titan sports updates. The women's tennis team is coming off of a big win over Bethany and headed to the PAC Championships in Erie Friday and Saturday. The volleyball team is coming off of a W and are hosting Geneva Friday and Chatham and St. Vincent Saturday. The men's soccer team is on the road to Case Western Reserve Friday, while the women's team hosts Waynesburg Saturday. And congratulations to this week's SAC Athlete of the Week freshman kicker Trevor Young. Young kicked the game-winning 44-yard field goal within the last few seconds of Westminster's homecoming game against Bethany. And speaking of Titan football, they are on the road this week traveling to Washington and Jefferson Saturday. The Titans have 2 more games left in the season. But just in case you missed their nail-biting game this weekend against Bethany, the Titans were down by 28 points in the first quarter. In the second quarter, they would come back a little bit, giving themselves 10 points. The score would be 28-10. In the third quarter, the Titans would finally take their first lead of the game, making the score 29-28. And in the fourth quarter, Bethany and the Titans were tied at 43 until Trevor Young would kick the 44-yard field goal as time expired. Titans came with the victory 46-43. And moving on to high school football, the Wilmington Greyhounds will make a short trip to Slippery Rock Friday to take on the Rockets. The Rockets are 7-1, while the Greyhounds are undefeated. And in case you can't wait another 24 hours to see them in action, our Titantown sports reporter Douglas Kuntz has highlights from their stomping win over Titusville.
Now, first and goal for the Hounds. Handoff goes to Jake DeMetal, and he's going to get the ball, find his way in the end zone, and Greyhounds draw first blood 7-0. Later in the first quarter, 1st and 10, Shane Wagner hits DeMetal in stride, wide open, and you can't touch him. Hounds now up 14-0. Still in the first quarter, Wagner throws, finds Schabaugh, gain of 8. Next play, Wagner rolls right, all kinds of time, looks deep. Caught by Schabaugh, touchdown on a 49-yard pass play. Hounds would go on to miss the extra point though. The Greyhounds will get the ball back, 1st and 10. Great blocking by the line, springs Burns, and they don't have enough rocket fuel to catch him. Touchdown. Then the handoff goes to Derek Burns, and he only needs a sliver of daylight, and he is out of here. Zia-Thai on a 56-yard run. And that's how they will end the game. Wilmington 54, Titusville 7.
And it's a brand new week, and that means another weekend full of high school football. Newcastle racks up their 5th win this season after a 47-28 victory over Ambridge. The Hurricanes prepare for a backyard brawl as they play host to Mohawk this week. Mohawk currently has 4 wins under their belt. And the moment you have all been waiting for, the extra inning portion of the show. The Steelers will play Sunday at 4:15 as they host the Giants. This could be an exciting game for all of you Steeler fans, as favorite Willie Parker may be back in action. The Browns will make a long trip to Jacksonville Sunday to take on the Jaguars at 4:05. The Browns are currently 2-4. And tonight is Game 2 of the World Series. The Phillies took Game 1 last night, 3-2. Don't forget to tune in next week to find out if the Greyhounds stayed undefeated as they took on the Slippery Rock Rockets. And you will find out how the Lady Titans tennis team did as they traveled to Erie for the PAC championships. Stay tuned for more County Line.
Okay, girls at 3 o'clock.
What is he looking at?
Oh, dude, it's so obvious. Captain Obvious has scored again. Open your window, say something.
Oh, he's really gonna down.
Hi. Hi.
Hey, guys.
Hi.
I'm the best thing you ever had. Only thing I'm guilty of is giving you too much love, making you crazy, making you rap, making me follow me, making me suspect. Seem to think I'm playing her game. Don't you know her? This is me.
There's a better way to have fun with history. Visit americaslibrary.gov. Log on, play around, learn something.
Picture yourself at Westminster College. Westminster offers an educational experience that is second to none. We've been exceeding students' expectations for 150 years. Westminster combines the prestige of a national liberal arts college with the personal attention you deserve. Westminster is a national leader in graduation rate performance and is the most affordable national liberal arts college in Pennsylvania. Visit Westminster's beautiful 300-acre campus to experience an ideal learning environment. Succeed at Westminster College.
Although many people today call Lawrence County their home, many don't know how the county was first created.
In a special history report, the County Line's Nikki Pizar goes back in time to the very beginnings of Lawrence County.
While some Native American families continued to linger in present-day Lawrence County at the turn of the 19th century, European settlers began to dominate the area and develop the land. Many relied on farming to make a living.
One of the things you had was donation and bounty lands, and what occurred was you were either given the land as a soldier or you were given the land as a, you bought the land off of one of the land trading companies.
Newcastle was the first town to be laid out. Surveyor John Carlisle Stewart arrived in 1798 and plotted the original layout of close to 50 acres. However, the town would soon outgrow these limits. In 1825, Newcastle officially became a borough with fewer than 300 residents, but 25 years later, more than 1,500 people called Newcastle home.
The cities are set along rivers, and when the canals came through, you're going to find that a lot of these cities came into their own power.
The canals allowed companies to bring in iron ore and carry out products from local factories. Just as Newcastle remains the political center in Lawrence County today, the city is tied to the root of the county's formation. This is the line that now separates Lawrence and Mercer counties. However, this wasn't always the case, as Mercer County used to cover the land south of here near Newcastle. Newcastle was split between Mercer County to the north and Beaver County to the south, causing political problems for the thriving community. Political leaders pushed for the creation of a new county with Newcastle as its headquarters throughout the 1830s and 40s, but they were met with great opposition and a formal petition against the plan.
I think that's one of those things that people would understand completely if they lived in the time. I mean, it's a tax base. That's how things were.
But that would all change in 1847 when David Sankey was elected to the state Senate. With his efforts and others' help, an act creating Lawrence County and signed by Governor William Johnston on April 5th, 1849.
It was considered a political victory that Lawrence County was even started.
That's history here in Lawrence County. I'm Nikki Pizar for the County Line.
That's all the time we have for the